Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Admiral Richard, I'll just jump right in for the sake of time. I think it'd be a mistake to discard any of our nuclear capabilities in light of our two near peers and the nuclear buildups and posturing that they're currently displaying. If the United States were to jettison any of these three following things, the nuclear sea-launched cruise missile, the B-83 gravity bomb, or the W-76-2 low-yield submarine-launched missile, in the upcoming nuclear posture review, what kind of message would that send to our adversaries and our allies?
Ranking Member, if you would, given that that's a discussion of our own capabilities, I'd like to defer my answer to that to the closed session, please, sir.
Okay, let me ask another question then. Is it your best military advice that our missile defenses are matching the growing People's Republic, Democratic Republic of North Korea threat?
So, Ranking Member, my best military advice here is that very question is at the core of the missile defense review. It's a question of what is our national policy in terms of what we expect to do from our missile defenses. My best military advice was applied inside the missile defense review, and I think it would be best for that process to complete to give you the formal department answer on that, sir.
General Dickinson. Reliable space launch options are critical to the continued success of the national security space launch program and for assured United States access to space. Can you outline the strategic advantages that we have by having launch options on both coasts? And what are we doing to protect these national missions given the fact that we have adversaries who are trying to challenge our ability to operate freely in space?
So, Ranking Member Lamborn, so if I understand your question correctly, it's about responsive launch as well as how we protect those types of capabilities.
Yeah, and having East Coast and West Coast options.
Certainly. So I think from a perspective from a combatant commander's perspective, having many different options available to us is very important. In other words, not just relying on one type of capability, in this case, relying on the ability to rapidly or quickly respond to any events that we might have on orbit with the capability to put something else up in orbit to provide us resiliency and, quite frankly, redundancy. Having them geographically separated obviously has some survivability benefits to that. So East Coast, West Coast, it also allows us to deploy in different orbital regimes and in different slots, if you will. And so from that perspective, I support that. I think it's part of a layered resiliency type of concept where we rely on that plus other things to make sure that we have resiliency in space. And it was mentioned, I believe, by Chairman Cooper in his opening remarks about a resilient space architecture. And that's very important that we have that. That is part of it. The other piece in my mind is having a constellation of satellites for different types of functions, whether it be communications or ISR or missile warning, that provide us redundancy and resiliency through numbers of satellites as opposed to just a few.
Thank you. General Van Herk, can you elaborate as to how China is developing its hypersonic capabilities in this open context, and how does that compare with our own progress?
Ranking Member Lamborn, they're aggressively pursuing hypersonic capability tenfold to what we have done as far as testing within the last year or so, significantly outpacing us with their capabilities. Ours, we're picking it up in the department. I'm confident we'll see when the budget comes out, we'll see additional resources applied into the hypersonic area, as well as in threat warning and attack assessment for those capabilities. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. And Secretary Baker, I imagine that the department is diligently consulting with our allies and partners these days as Russia invades Ukraine and is threatening veiled threats or maybe not so veiled threats on nuclear action. In these conversations, have you found a single NATO ally that is advocating for us to change or weaken our nuclear declaratory policy?
Congressman, yes, of course, we are consulting closely with our partners and allies on a daily, if not more regular basis. The substance of those conversations is largely about the current ongoing events in Ukraine, but no, I can't say that I've found an ally who is urging us to reduce our nuclear deterrence.
Or our declaratory policy
Yes,
in particular?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I yield back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Carbajal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. General Dickinson, U.S. space officials